The explosion in Rawalpindi was the thunderclap that broke the jinn's enforced silence. It was a purely human sound defiance, and it sent ripples through the Shayatin Alwatan's cold dominion. Faisal Javed, having escaped the blast site, became the most wanted man in the country. The official narrative was swift and brutal. He was an extremist element, attempting to destabilize the Great Reconciliation. The national sedation, however, was cracking, especially among the political veterans who had served under the old regimes. They recognized the familiar signs of a state apparatus weaponized against a perceived threat, but amplified by a chilling, unnatural speed. Faisal was in hiding, relying on the same clandestine pathways his former leader, Imran Khan, had mastered. Ayesha Sultan, the journalist, used her network to locate him, not to report his story, but to join his fight. A covert meeting was arranged near the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the jinn's newly energized occult nodes. Ayesha brought physical evidence, geological surveys showing the obsidian pillars and the strange, sigil-like geometries beneath the earth, provided by a panicked, anonymous contact, Dr. Tariq Hussain. This is not a political regime, Ayesha stated, spreading the blueprints on a dusty cloth beneath the moon. This is an occupation. Zardari is the gate, and the Jinn is the architect. Look at this. She pointed to the schematics of the deep tunnels. These pillars aren't conducting power, they're conducting spiritual gravity. They anchor the Jinn to the land. They are its root system. Dr. Hussain, arriving hours later, thin and worn from weeks on the run, confirmed her terrifying hypothesis. I couldn't alert the authorities. My systems were corrupted, my files deleted. This entity controls the digital landscape as perfectly as it controls the government. It's using the state to build its body. He pointed to a specific sequence of the subterranean tunnels marked $G/Psi $3. This node, beneath the confluence of three ancient rivers, it's the epicenter. It's not just an anchor, it's a reverse summoning chamber. The Jinn didn't just capture the nation, it's building a physical vessel for itself, using the very infrastructure of Pakistan as its flesh and bone. Faisal Javed looked at the complex geometry, his political fury hardening into a cold, fanatical resolution. Imran Khan spoke of justice, of accountability. You speak of science and spiritual architecture. It all leads to the same place. We can't depose Zardari. We have to exorcise the land itself. Their plan crystallized. They couldn't fight a spiritual being with bullets or ballots. They needed to sever its connection to the physical realm. They had to collapse the central node, $G/Psi $3, beneath the three rivers, disrupting the Jinn's root system and forcing it out of its vessel, Zardari. The journey to the confluence was a race against the Jinn's hyper-efficient forces. Zardari, acting on the Jinn's manic rage, had deployed specialized units of the secret policemen who moved with a chilling, detached efficiency, as if animated by a force other than human will. Ayesha used her mastery of communication, planting disinformation and false leads in the digital world, creating static on the Jinn's network. Dr. Hussain used his knowledge of the old, forgotten access points to the infrastructure, navigating them through the dense, corrupt digital fog. Faisal used his martial skills and loyalist network, running cover and procuring the necessary tools, not explosives this time, but deep, drilling equipment and heavy earth-moving gear, disguised as standard government maintenance apparatus. Their goal was to reach the heart of the Jinn's geometry, the $G/Psi $3 chamber, and introduce a massive, disruptive element, water, and a symbolic offering. They descended into the earth, following Dr. Hussain's salvaged schematics. The tunnels were cold, silent, and permeated by a suffocating sense of pressure. The walls were not lined with concrete, but with an unnatural, pulsating obsidian rock, the Jinn's physical manifestation. They finally reached the chamber. It was vast, cavernous, and empty save for a single, enormous obsidian pillar that pierced the ceiling and floor, glowing with a dull, sickly yellow light, the light they had seen pulsating on Spectral map of Pakistan in the pit. It was the Jinn's heartbeat. We can't just blow it up. Dr. Hussain whispered, his voice trembling as the sheer occult power pressed in on them. The detonation will release, not destroy, the entity. We must disrupt the geometry, flood the chamber, and introduce an element the Jinn cannot digest. Faisal had brought one last artifact, an ornate, gold-plated miniature copy of the Constitution of Pakistan, a symbol of the rule of law, the very ideals Imran Khan had staked his life on. The Jinn feeds on the betrayal of law, Faisal declared, his eyes blazing with a fervor that mirrored his missing leader. We offer it a perfect, clean law, submerged in the waters of the land it seeks to devour. We force it to choke on the idea it hates most, accountability. As they began their desperate work, drilling into the bedrock to breach the subterranean water table, the air grew instantaneously colder. The obsidian pillar pulsed faster, the yellow light becoming a blinding, white flash. Zardari appeared. He walked from the shadows, impeccably dressed, but his eyes were empty voids. It was no longer Zardari. It was the Shayatin al-Watan, fully inhabiting its vessel. The scraping voice of the pit, now amplified and given physical resonance, filled the cavern, the small ones, the persistent gnats. The Jinn hissed through Zardari's lips, its smile a horrifying, perfect curve. You think you understand the bargain? I didn't want the land. I wanted the will of the people. Your rulers gave me a buffet of hate, corruption, and despair. I am not a demon of hell, little king. I am the democracy of failure. He extended a hand toward the drilling site. I control the law, he croaked. I control the land. I control the memory. A colossal, unseen force slammed into Faisal, throwing him against the wall. Ayesha screamed, scrambling to seal the breach they had made into the water table. Your sacrifice, Zardari, was the most complete. The Jinn gloated. He gave me his cynicism the greatest weapon of all, the belief that power is only a cold bargain. You three fight for a belief Khan, for a report Ayesha, for a system Hussain. Zardari gave me everything for the simple right to sit in the chair. Dr. Hussain, ignoring the chaos, finally opened the flood valve. A torrential surge of river water, cold and dark, roared into the chamber, crashing against the base of the obsidian pillar. The Jinzar, Dari screamed, a high-pitched, inhuman shriek as the water met the occult matrix. The Jinn's grip on Zardari's body wavered, the Prime Minister convulsing as the water disrupted the psychic connection. The moment was fleeting. Faisal, regaining his feet, grabbed the miniature constitution. He hurled it into the raging water, right at the base of the pillar. The moment the gold-plated document touched the dark water and floated near the obsidian, the pillar reacted violently. The Jinzar, Dari roared, a sound of agony and pure, distilled malice. The pillar shattered with the sound of 1,000 breaking glass panes. The chamber plunged into absolute darkness, illuminated only by the frantic, sporadic flashes of energy sparking from the broken obsidian. The Jinn was ripped from its vessel. Asif Zardari collapsed into the rushing water, a slack, broken man, his face stripped of the perpetual, unnerving smile. The cold bargain had been terminated. The Jinn, however, was not destroyed. Released from its anchor, it became a formless, invisible storm of pure energy, the Shayatin al-Watan, loose and raging in the subterranean chamber. It struck Ayesha, not with force, but with despair, a torrent of memory of every failed politician, every rigged election, every broken promise in Pakistan's history. It was the Jinn trying to poison her soul. You cannot win. The invisible entity screamed into her mind. I am the collective failure. I am eternal. Doctor. Hussain dragged the unconscious Zardari away from the flood, realizing their window was closing. Faisal Javed stood in the darkness, soaked to the bone. He didn't have a sophisticated plan, only the singular, unyielding conviction of his lost leader. He screamed, his voice raw, not at the Jinn, but at the idea of the Jinn. You are a lie. The nation is not your food. We will not let you rule. The force of his will, The one thing the Jinn had dismissed as sentimental, in Imran Khan, acted as a spiritual repellent. The Jinn, enraged, focused its fury on the source of the resistance. As the chamber began to collapse around them, the Jinn launched one last, devastating counter-attack. The entity, unable to anchor itself, fled upward through the tunnels it had constructed, its presence tearing apart the structural integrity. Faisal, Ayesha, and Dr. Hussein, carrying the inert body of Zardari, scrambled into a side tunnel. They made it to the surface as the cavern system, the Jinn's root, collapsed in a muffled, cataclysmic tremor far below. The yellow light went out across the region. In Islamabad the next day, the sudden, impossible peace evaporated. A wave of collective confusion and critical thought swept the nation. People suddenly questioned the silence of the last few months. The news was reporting that Prime Minister Asif Zardari had been found, unconscious, near an abandoned industrial site. The Great Reconciliation was revealed as a grotesque fraud. Ayesha Sultan, Dr. Tariq Hussein, and Faisal Javed vanished into the political wilderness, their story too fantastic, too occult to ever be believed. But they had achieved their goal. They had broken the Jinn's physical anchor. The Shayatin al-Watan was gone from the Prime Minister's house, ripped from its vessel, but it was not defeated. It was merely dispersed, forced back into the nation's shadows, the cynical deals, the deep-seated corruption, and the political infighting. As the ambulances took away a catatonic Asif Zardari, the Parliament of Shadows returned to its natural state. The political vacuum was instantaneous. Two powerful, absent rivals, Nawaz Sharif and Imran Khan, were now confirmed missing, vanished without a trace, the ultimate victims of the Jinn's first successful game. The people cried for an explanation, for a leader, for a direction. And as the sun set over Islamabad, the air was thick once more, not with the suffocating sulfur of the Jinn, but with the familiar, intoxicating scent of chaos and unholy ambition. The game of Pakistan was starting again, and the Shayatin al-Watan, the unseen, eternal ruler, was waiting for the next king to make his desperate, final bid. The Parliament of Shadows was adjourned, but the Jinn's game never ends.